Hey everybody, Dave Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Loren Fogelman. She was named by HubSpot as one of the top 22 coaches in the United States between 2018 and 2021. She's also the founder of Business Success Solution, and she focuses on helping accounting professionals, i.e. this audience, double their income while working half the time. We're probably going to cover a lot of topics, but we found one very specific that we don't believe we've talked about on this podcast before. So we're really excited to dig into it. But first, I want to say, Loren, welcome to the show.
David, I am so excited to be here and digging into our conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to let the listeners wait a little bit more for that topic. Something just came to mind. It's the summer of 2022. The economy is really skittish. Global markets are really skittish. Everybody's worried. How are you feeling about the resiliency of accounting firms, going through this summer and over the next couple of years?
Well, what I feel is, first of all, I'm not an economist, so let's start with that.
Yeah, I'm not either. Just a headline.
But I feel it's similar to a seasonal business. There's ebbs and flows that happen in our economy throughout history. And when it's a little bit of a downturn and people are tightening up their purse strings, then I actually see this as a course correction. The people that were hobbyists and really not that good anyway, they tend to go away. And the people that really deliver high value to their clients, a quality product, they are the ones that are able to sustain it through the long term and survive and actually come out even stronger on the other end when things are starting to turn around because they've really positioned themselves well for growth.
I love it. Focus on what you can control, which is delivering an amazing service for an amazing client base. Well, on that note, something we had talked about pre-show was this nuanced topic of, pricing and raising rates. And you said, well, what I'd really love to talk about is how do you raise rates on your current clients? And I thought, oh my goodness, we've talked so much about when you're implementing new pricing, you test it out on new clients, but then there's always this fear and concern, this worry, oh, I don't want to go back to my current clients and tell them this. So I'm just curious, why has that become such a passion topic for you? And then let's talk about some of the mental hurdles firm owners need to start going through in order to start having these conversations.
It's a passion topic for me because I believe that accounting professionals are unsung heroes. They do so much for their clients, some things their clients don't even know about or realize that they're doing for them, and that they really are client-centered. They care so deeply. It was evident when everything changed in March of 2020 and business as we knew it shut down overnight. And accounting professionals, they were first responders. They were taking courses, they were helping their clients. They were absolutely there to help their clients navigate through the confusion, the overwhelm, in order to help them really make the best of it as possible. And so much of it they did without any compensation. It came from the heart. So they are unsung heroes. And part of what happens is their fees do not reflect their value. And maybe it does with new clients coming in because that's easier, but then the old clients are at old rates. So we need to get it to where it is not just efficient, but effective, where everybody recognizes the value of their worth and that they're getting well compensated for the difference that they make for their clients.
Yeah, I love it. Well, to jump around a little bit, I think one of the biggest worries of going back to your existing clients is you mentioned that you're raising rates 3%, 5%, 20%, I don't know. And the client says, I can't believe this. I'm out. I'm leaving. I mean, you've worked with a lot of firms. You've seen this across the board. If you do it with thought and care, what is the real probability this hurts your overall reputation or revenue? Is this something to actually be concerned about, or is this not the case when you kind of work with the firms you work with?
Okay, David, I'm going to push back a little bit because you're talking about hurt. It doesn't hurt anybody. It actually benefits everybody. I believe it's a win-win. What I want to say is it's our scarcity mindset, our fears that keep us stuck with the status quo, even though it's not the most effective way of doing business. And it means that you have to have a lot of clients, feel like a slave to your business and their demands. And it means that you're also sacrificing time with your family, personal activities, self-care as a result of that because you need the numbers. This is more of a correction. And part of your evolution is going back and realizing that, yes, you can have the fears of being worried about losing clients. Maybe you don't like what's considered a confrontational conversation where there might be pushback or objections. People don't like change. I absolutely get that. They're risk adverse. It could be that you don't recognize the value of your own services. So how do you communicate that to someone who's been working with you for a long time? You gave them everything without them paying too much. And the other part is clients are not as price sensitive. We tend to believe they are. My research has shown that if you raise your rates, then 82% of your clients will come with you forward to your new pricing. And the ones that tend to leave were the ones that you were secretly hoping would go away anyway. So it's a recalibration of letting go of the ones who don't see the value, they're price sensitive, maybe the ones that text you 8 o'clock on Friday night, expecting you to text back within 15 minutes with an answer. And so it's a course correction that actually up-levels your firm and also lets you work with them at a higher quality.
Great. And to get a sense of, I know this is a very wide spectrum, depending on how much of a calibration you're thinking about, but and you tell me if there's the right way to think about it, but what is the average percentage increase that you typically see? Do they stagger it over a couple of years? Is it, we're going to do 30% this year because wow, we underprice ourselves so much? Is it a ramp up? I mean, how do you start thinking of percentages and rollout?
Well, first of all, about 57% of accounting professionals, if not more, are undercharged for their services. So let's just get on the same page. Moving in this direction takes courage, not confidence. The confidence comes later as you start seeing people agree to your new rates and your new way of possibly doing business. What I would say is the majority of accounting professionals, when they raise their rates, they're actually raising them too low anyway. So they're still continuing to have low rates. They're not really fixing the problem. It's like taking the Band-Aid off very slowly instead of ripping it off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say for anybody listening here, if you're doing that easy 5, maybe 10% increase, you're still leaving money on the table and undercharging for your services. I encourage my clients to actually go for a 2-time, doubling their rates, sometimes even 3 times to get them up to where those older clients who are legacy clients, they've been with you forever. You never raised their rates in all the years they've been with you. And we need to get them up to your current rates. So if you're doing this on your own and the thought of doubling or tripling your rates feels like too much of a step where you would need hand-holding, I absolutely understand. Then I will let you know you can comfortably and safely go for a 20 to 30% rate increase and not get the pushback that you think you will.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm curious because there's a lot of data out there, a lot of different sites. So I'll compare this to maybe it could be home values, it could be compensation data. You don't know what's accurate, you don't know what's realistic. You look at home values and they say, well, they're there to help make you sell, right? Sell your home. Maybe they're not always the most accurate thing. When it comes to understanding pricing benchmarks for the accounting service industry, what sources have you found to be kind of most directionally accurate? Or do you really have to kind of look at everything published and kind of do your own analysis?
I believe that if you are using that as a metric and a guide, you will continue to underprice your services because the majority of accounting professionals are based in the fees on time and cost and maybe some profit margin, whether they're charging an hourly rate or charging a fixed fee. It's based on what you value because you have a business to running, it has operating expenses. And the easy way to be able to calculate your fees is by calculating your time by a certain rate. If you continue to do that, you're going to continue to underprice for your services. So don't compare yourself to those people because they're undercharging too. And most people don't even know where their hourly rate came from. Basically, it was made up by an attorney about 100 years ago to justify his high rates. So it is something that was taken out of thin air by an attorney, and now it is the standard for everybody. We need to move away from that. It's like still using a rotary dial-up phone when there's a better way of connecting and pricing for your services. So what you need to do is really understand the value from the client's point of view and start to really move in that direction of pricing services according to what's valuable to your clients instead of what you see as valuable to you, because you're always undercharged when you do it that way.
Got it. Got it. And so I love your point about 2Xing, because you mentioned this 82%, will flip over, and you can comfortably go 20, 30%. So there's an ROI there. But hey, if you have the willingness, for lack of a better word, to go 2X, and my goodness, I think there's a huge opportunity there. You mentioned something earlier. If you're going to go out and up to 2X, maybe even 3X, maybe you come from the past where you're accepting every deal, or you're accepting every client. You kind of position yourself as the be all for everybody. Now that you're raising your rates, how do you reposition your firm? How do you articulate why you're doing this in a way that clients, well, I think your earlier point, clients may not care at all. They may see the email and be like, okay, great, whatever, on to the next thing. But for those that are reading it, how do you position this properly so they feel really good about where you're going as a firm and how you're positioning the services going forward?
And once again, I want to reiterate, we're talking about doing this with current clients as opposed to newer clients, because it's a little bit of a different conversation. I just went through this exact thing with one of my clients, and I'd rather share about her experience than give an overall theory.
Perfect.
First of all, this is someone who does not like talking about rates with her clients. She hasn't raised rates with this one client since actually 2014, since they've been working together. So that's a long time that they've been working together. This one client has gone from a 6 to a multi-7-figure business, but he still was paying her old rates of $200 a month, even though the scope of work had expanded. And she hired me because she wanted to get her clients up to her new rates, but doing that, shaking in her boots, even thinking about it. What we did is we started to create packages, and that way they can have options of how to work with her as to whether continue or moving on to some other option. So that was the first thing, is we created packages. And then I helped her to understand the value from the client's perspective and why they have her doing their accounting services as opposed to some other option, so that she can ask better questions during the conversation. We actually role played her talking to me as if I was the client, and the questions to ask and how I might answer them and what objections might come up, in order for her to have a dress rehearsal first. And then I gave her some feedback so she wouldn't make those mistakes in the conversation. So fast forward, we went through all this hand holding to get her prepared for it. She had this conversation with her first client that she felt was price sensitive. And what she emailed me back was that she offered him 3 packages, silver, gold, and diamond, that he went for the highest package. So what that means is this was a $200 a month client. He's been like that for years. He opted for a package that was $1,200 a month because she was able to show him the value from his point of view instead of her point of view. And what I wanted to say was that was a light bulb moment for her. That was really, it took a lot of courage, but now she has the momentum and the experience on how to move forward with that. So it is absolutely possible to do it, even if you are concerned. But the other thing I want to also say is that she was able to focus on what was important to him. And do you mind if I go into that a little bit about the value from his point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to really highlight for the listeners that, in this case, and this client went for the highest tier. I see something like that, and what it tells me personally is that client was probably thinking about moving on from their relationship at some point. I mean, the fact was, if she was undercharging or undervaluing, and they were so willing to 6X the price, they were probably thinking in the back of their head, I feel like, we need a little bit more. And obviously they really had a great relationship with this person. And so maybe it wasn't, short-term risk, but I just feel like for a lot of listeners in your client base now, you can't give them the level of service you want. You're undercharging them. And the client on the other end, this goes back to your win-win point, is thinking, gosh, I just, whether it's certain KPIs, cash flow forecasting, response times, whatever it is, they're thinking about things they need. They don't know how to articulate it to you. So I love the packages because you're giving them a stream to opt into. So I think that's wonderful. And I just wanted to articulate that.
And actually, you're very spot on, because he was talking, this client was talking with one of her assistants, the person that does his books every month, saying that he wants some additional services. So he was wanting more. But what he also said to my client, once they had this conversation and he opted into the new package, was that I've been with you since 2014. I'm not going anywhere. And she had fear for years, how many years she could have made this course correction. But it wasn't that she didn't want to, she just didn't know how, and she needed someone to show her the steps. But the value from the client's point of view, this is what happens with most accounting professionals. Think about it, your very, very first house that you purchase, or the very first house that you hope to purchase. When you purchase that house, you're thinking about finally signing the papers, getting the keys, opening up the door to your brand new home, no longer paying somebody else's mortgage, but now you're paying your own mortgage, and you're really moving towards ownership. That is what happens when we buy our very first house. And when you're buying that first house, you're not asking how many nails they used, whether they used W-2s or 1099s to construct the house or anything else. You're not buying the widgets. You're buying the experience of home ownership and finally moving into your own home. And what happens with accounting professionals is we focus on the widgets, the reports, the data, the transactions, and we don't focus on giving your clients the keys to the kingdom of their kingdom and what's important to them. And when we switch the conversation to giving them the keys to their kingdom, then your value rises and they're not as price sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned something I just want to really hone in on is your client, and this is not atypical. We've talked to a lot of firms, this is not atypical, was surprised how much their client loved working with them. Mm-hmm. And, whether it's more in-person meetings, a client satisfaction survey, I can just imagine the confidence that's built up, even if you're not thinking about pricing, but just to understand where you're at in the relationship and how people think about your firm. Ask them, you can do a simple net promoter score, you can do a CSAT survey, you can do things to just generally gauge the satisfaction of your client base. And I think that will also, like you mentioned, really help you understand how to evolve strategically and calibrate your positioning. Again, you don't have to do these two things together. Hey, you gave me a good score, now I'm going to 6 extra price. You don't have to do that. You could do the score or you could do the pricing. But the point is, we don't know how much the clients enjoy work with us unless we have a conversation like that or send a survey or do something like that.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes what you think they value and what they actually value from your services are two different things. Being able to meet with even 2, possibly 3 of your clients and ask them what it is that you care about. What do you like working with us? What are the changes that you've seen happen as a result of our services? Will give you insights from their point of view instead of from your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much of this topic to dig into, and we only have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. But I'm curious, what are some other roadblocks folks might have if they're intimidated by getting started? What are some common misconceptions or traps or other things that might block somebody from going down this journey of raising rates on existing clients?
Well, the biggest roadblock is that maybe it's something you want to do, you don't know how to do it, because accounting professionals overall tend to be risk adverse. They don't want to have pushback. They don't want to upset their clients. They don't want to lose clients. I absolutely understand all of that. And you just need a formula on how to do that. And I'd like to actually share the steps on how to go from either a fixed fee or an hourly rate towards value pricing. It's similar to when you first learning how to ride a 2-wheel bicycle. And in the beginning, you're a little bit shaky and unsteady with it, because that you have training wheels to help with the balance. And then once you get more comfortable, you take the training wheels off. Well, I teach what I call good, better, best pricing. And this is something you can follow right on your own from what I'm sharing with you. What happens is, let's go with new clients right now coming to you. And with the new clients coming to you, what you want to do is figure out what their fixed rate would be. You can do this with monthly clients, with your current clients also, but what their current fixed rate is going to be. And then what you want to do is multiply that by 1.5, and you're going to have your new good rate. I want you to enroll 3 people into your new good rate. This gives you evidence that your clients aren't as price sensitive as you think they are. After you've enrolled 3 people into your new good rate, we're going to jump up to tier 2, which will be your better rate. Once again, you're going to have people come into you and now figure out once again what that original fixed fee will be and multiply it by 2x. And we're going to now enroll people into your new better rate. This is going to have you getting better at the conversation of what they care about, what answers they have come up, and be able to answer those. It gives you a little bit more confidence with having that conversation, and maybe when the objections come up, how to work through those. But you're really gaining some traction now with having people enroll into your new better rate. And now you're working the same amount of hours, but you're getting double what you previously would have gotten for the same service. After you enroll 3 people into your new better rate, then we jump up to the top tier, which is your best rate. Once again, you'll have people come into you and calculate what that original fixed fee would have been for that service, and we'll multiply it by 3 times. You're now earning 3x what you originally would have earned for that same service, because that you don't need as many clients in order to meet your revenue needs. You're working with a better client who respects you, who has boundaries, who is not demanding, and they are more likely to follow through because it's a higher quality client. And since you don't have as many clients, you can also work more closely with them, doing some of those higher level services that you didn't have the capacity to do before. At some point, you are going to want to recalibrate, and that new best rate will become your new good rate, and you'll go through the good, better, best pricing all over again. And that's how you start to move away from that. It's easy to start this with new clients and get used to having that conversation of higher rates, and then going back to your current clients and having that same value conversation with them.
That's amazing. Well, Loren, we covered a wide spectrum of ideas and questions and frameworks. If our audience wants to reach out, learn more, connect with you, get some great resources, what is the best way for them to do so?
Well, I actually have a written out resource on those 10 steps to be able to start moving away from your fixed or hourly rate to the value pricing, outlining exactly what I just shared with you with the good, better, best. And you can get that resource at businesssuccesssolution.com/package. And it has it step-by-step outlined for you. You will be good to go.
Great, great, great. Well, if you enjoyed this interview, we're going to write up all the notes, including the link that she just mentioned at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. If you enjoyed this interview, leave a 5-star review. It helps us get the word out. And if you really enjoyed this, if you say, I need to take this and run with this, or I need to share this with a fellow firm owner because they need to hear it, I know that will mean the world to Loren and I. So please do so if you know somebody that can benefit from this content. Loren, thanks again for coming on the show.